Alrighty, wrestling fans, this is going to be a fun video. It's from WrestleMania. Of course, support them as much as you can. All these channels, they have such great content. But it's 10 WWE superstars who secretly checked on their opponent. Now that's an important part of working, of the business, is being there for your opponent. Obviously, the referee is largely in charge of making sure everybody's okay, but sometimes it's much more expeditious and just a point of concern that you want to check on your own opponent. The most commonplace way we always used was the hand squeeze. If you were close enough together to do that. Depended on the spot. Sometimes it was verbal. I can remember one time we set up a big spot going through a table on a frog splash, and me and my buddy Dave, who had set the spot up together, he frog splashed me through the table. Well, we're both on the ground, so it was easy enough, or on the mat. It's easy enough to just roll over, sell it on your stomach, and you can talk to each other without being seen. It also depends on if it's somebody you know really well. A lot of times you can just do it visually. Just the expressions you make and stuff, just because you know one another so well. You take something big, and then you get a sideways glance down to look at you, and if I look up and I go like that or something, he knows I'm goofing and it's good to go. But it'll be interesting to see.
Well, the most important thing in a wrestling match is to make sure the wrestlers involved are...
This too, guys. At the end of this video, if you want to see, I queued up an old clip of mine that's a perfect example of this, when somebody was unable to directly check on another, when he was unable to check on me, and what a real professional does. I'll show you that at the end of the reaction to this video.
All times. Now, this is done a number of ways. The main way of doing this is via referee communication, but sometimes it's actually easier for the talent involved in the match to communicate either verbally or physically with one another.
Exactly what I'm talking about. That's just what we did with the table thing. After you take the table, you roll over and...
after a very scary spot. Now, there have been a number of instances over the past years, but they are extremely hard to spot, and only the most eagle-eyed fans usually pick up on this secret communication.
Yeah.
Which times
anytime you both end up in a down position together, it's easy to check on one another. It's like if I've taken a big shot and the guy who gave it to me is still standing, that's when you really got to count on the ref.
10 times WWE
but again, sometimes if you know somebody well enough, visuals will do it. And this spot I'll show you at the end that happened with me, there was because of the way it came off, there was no referee in the ring at the time. It was during an interview segment, a promo segment.
Number 10,
but I'll show it to you
Guerrero
at the end.
versus JBL in the cage match. This 2004 feud between Eddie Guerrero and JBL took JBL to the very next level.
That was good
He'd
stuff.
been in a tag team for the majority of his career, but WWE wanted him to break out and become the top heel on SmackDown. The feud with Eddie was the best work of his career, and it made fans take JBL seriously as a legitimate main event talent. One of the most memorable matches the two had in their feud was a cage match on SmackDown. This was the match in which Eddie would perform a trademark frog splash onto JBL from the top of the steel cage.
That's the one where he dislocated his elbow, is it?
Due to the dangerous nature of this spot, Eddie made sure that JBL was okay after landing, and he did this in a rather discreet way. As once Eddie landed, he tucked his head into JBL so he could quickly ask JBL if he was okay to continue.
That's exactly it.
Once he knew he was okay, Eddie would then roll off JBL, allowing
anytime you end up with your faces close to one another, then it's a piece of cake to check.
Hell in a Cell. There were a number of dangerous matches.
You gotta remember, everything in wrestling, you try and keep things as shorthand as possible when you're speaking. Just like if you're calling a spot, you don't want to, you don't want to say, okay, now I am going to whip you into the other turnbuckle and charge in. At that point, I want you to put up your boot. No, you get somebody in the corner, you go, corner takeover boot. And everybody should know what that is. All it means is I'm on top right now. I'm going to send you to the corner. I want you to take over, take the advantage, and do it with your boot.
Types in WWE, but perhaps the most dangerous of them all is the Hell in a Cell match. When Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt collided in a Hell in a Cell match in 2015, the two performed some really dangerous spots, and one involved Reigns spearing Wyatt off the apron through a table which was on the outside of the ring. Reigns is one of the safest workers there is, and Reigns smartly made sure Bray not only landed safely, but was perfectly fine upon landing. Once the two landed, Reigns put his head down
put him right in the middle of the table.
Bray's armpit. This gave Reigns the perfect opportunity to check on him.
So basically, this is just them
and luckily, he was in the two
finding the spots where the guys
transition into the next spot. Number 8, CM
were able
Punk
to land
versus
with their
Curtis Axel and
faces
Paul
close
Heyman.
to one another.
It's well established that CM Punk wasn't the biggest fan of working with Ryback. Punk believed that Ryback was incredibly reckless in the ring and that Ryback took years off his career. The two had a number of storylines with each other during their time in WWE, but their most forgettable took place in 2013.
I heard about this, and I don't think I saw this.
Paul Heyman in a handicap match at the Night of Champions pay-per-view. This was when Ryback interfered and tackled Punk through a table which was placed in the corner. The landing looked brutal, and it was clear that Ryback hadn't safely executed the spot.
No,
Ryback would audibly ask Punk if he was okay, in which Punk didn't respond.
He was falling with him before he got to the table. He couldn't control how he hit him.
And this would be an unfortunate trend throughout their 2013 feud. Number 7, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, he looked like he was falling forward.
TLC match. But TLC 2019 was main evented by Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair taking on Asuka and Kairi Sane for the Women's Tag Team Championship. The TLC match concept has been responsible for a number of injuries in the past.
Well, yeah.
This specific match was no exception.
Not surprising.
It was clear during the match that Kairi had suffered a concussion, and this led to Becky communicating with Kairi off camera and changing the match on the fly. Becky would decide to roll Kairi under the ring. This was so that she could avoid any further damage and she could then be treated by medical staff. This received unanimous praise for Becky for showing true leadership in the ring and making sure that Kairi's well-being came first.
Stuff.
Number 6, the men's Raw versus...
I really like that. That's quality stuff. Way to go. Not surprised from Becky Lynch, but that's really good stuff. That's actually similar, the sentiment, to what I'm going to show you after this reaction is done.
Survivor Series. The Survivor Series 2016 featured one of the most memorable traditional Survivor Series matches in the company's history. The men's 5v5 match was star-studded, and WWE truly booked the match to perfection. Fantastic booking aside, though, the match did feature a spot which resulted in Shane McMahon being knocked out. Shane would go for the coast-to-coast, and this would be intercepted by Reigns, who would perform a spear in midair. Once the move was performed, Reigns remained on Shane's body so he could ensure that he was okay. It was clear that Shane was hurt. Once the referee began his count, it became obvious that Shane was legitimately knocked out hurt.
Watch the head snap, guys.
A spear in midair. Once the move was performed, Reigns remained on Shane's body so he could ensure...
His head bounced like a basketball. That's instant concussion. Head snap is the most common and easiest way, obviously,
it was clear that
to get a concussion. That's how fighters knock each other out. They call this being punched on the button. Because when you get punched here, your head snaps hard.
This is when Reigns immediately gave Shane space so the referee could assess the situation. At one point, Reigns audibly asked the referee if he's okay,
that's
and
just
the
a
referee
dangerous
looked towards
spot.
Reigns before declaring that Shane was no longer able to compete. Number 5, Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan. One of the feuds that dominated WWE television in 2013 was the feud between Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. The feud was responsible for Bryan's ascension.
These are really good, though. I
enjoy
watching this.
And the two legends had fantastic in-ring chemistry with one another. But one of their best matches took place on Raw in the summer of 2013. This would be a street fight. A notable spot in the match saw Orton perform a T-bone suplex on Bryan into a table, which was placed in the corner. Bryan, though, had a rough landing, and Orton was quickly to audibly ask Bryan if he was okay.
I didn't see it. Well, it looked like, he certainly landed. He landed short of the table.
Bryan would then respond with a definitive yep.
See, the thing there is, that table actually, if it's landed properly, helps break your fall.
Orton performed a T-bone suplex on Bryan into a table, which was placed in the corner.
So he just
Bryan, though, had a rough landing, and Orton was quickly
now if he'd have gotten him up higher, threw him further, the table would have, and hit the table sideways, the table would actually help
Bryan
break
would then
the fall.
Respond with a definitive yep. Orton has attained a reputation for being one of the safest workers there is. And this goes to show how much pride he takes in making sure his opponent
that's
is
just a freak thing that he hurt his shoulder on that anyway, because the landing wasn't that bad. Must have just been a bad angle.
WWE did the unthinkable in 2008 when they put the legendary Undertaker in a TLC match with Edge. This took place at the One Night Stand pay-per-view, and the Undertaker took some of the biggest bumps of his entire career during the match. One of the bumps he took was a frog splash from Edge, but this wasn't a standard frog splash. Edge would place the dead man on a table and would then jump off the announce table.
That's exactly what I was talking about. That's what me and my buddy Dave did. That's exactly the spot.
Exactly. This gave Edge a few seconds to ensure that Taker
See,
was
we just
perfectly
rolled out,
Now,
each of us on our stomach.
Towards
That's
Edge
funny
for how
that
the match
that
turned
came
out,
up.
as Edge safely guided the dead man through a lot of dangerous spots and made sure that Taker was completely safe throughout. Number 3, Sasha
Wow,
Banks
that's
versus
cool seeing
Carmella.
that.
Now, dives to the outside are some of the most dangerous spots a wrestler can perform in a match. They
Yeah.
can result in wrestlers landing on their head and
Especially when-
potentially breaking their neck.
That's a
These
great
dives
catch there. We
are
saw that
often
one
botched,
before.
and there's usually
That's a
immediate
phenomenal
concern that
catch.
something has seriously gone wrong. Take, for instance, Carmella's dive onto Sasha Banks at the Royal Rumble in 2021. Carmella would land head first, and this forced Sasha to turn her head when they
Well, I'll
landed.
tell you what,
and instantly
Sasha did a
check on
great
Carmella's
job
condition.
of killing her
Amazingly,
momentum,
Carmella was
of helping her
perfectly
to the
fine,
ground.
which was a miracle in itself, as the landing didn't make for a pleasant viewing experience.
No,
Number
but that's
2, The
that's a
Undertaker
good
versus
catch.
Batista
That's a
versus
really good
CM
catch.
Punk versus Rey Mysterio. The bragging
Slowed
rights
her
pay-per-view
momentum a
in
ton.
2009 featured a fatal four-way for the world title as Taker took on Batista, CM Punk, and Rey Mysterio. During the final stages of the match, the dead man hit a chokeslam on Batista, and Taker was instantly concerned that the animal was hurt. The dead man immediately asked Batista if he was okay, and Batista would then reply by saying no.
Yeah, he's at an odd. That's an odd way to have your arms
Batista would then
expressed.
inform the dead man that he needed to perform the tombstone on him to end the match. It's unclear what truly happened here, as there were no reports that Batista was hurt after the match. It just
That's
seemed
really
like he had an
odd.
awkward landing and wanted the match
Oh,
to
he
end
landed
as
on his
quickly
hip.
and safely as
Watch,
possible.
guys.
It just seemed like he had an awkward landing and
He
wanted the match
did.
to end as
You don't get to
quickly
see it
and
good.
safely
He
as
landed. You want to
possible.
land flat on
And
your
number
back,
1,
obviously,
Roman
and
Reigns
any
versus
bump.
Brock Lesnar.
But he
Roman
landed on
Reigns
his
and
hip.
Brock Lesnar collided in the main event
I would assume
of
that's what
Night
it
2
was.
WrestleMania 38 for both the WWE and
You
Universal
can do a lot of
title.
damage like
The
that.
finish of the match came out of nowhere as Reigns would hit a spear to win the match. Now, it was rumored that Reigns might have injured his shoulder, and this was supported by Lesnar checking on Reigns after the 1-2-3. Lesnar would gently squeeze Reigns' neck, presumably to check on Reigns' condition, and Reigns would then audibly say something in response to Lesnar, but this couldn't be picked up on the live broadcast.
Yeah,
Lesnar
good
is often
job.
criticized for really not caring about the wrestling industry or his matches, but this moment
don't-
goes to show that Lesnar cares
And I don't-
deeply about his work,
I
but
don't
also the
get
talent
that.
he shares
You can-
the squared circle
you
with.
can-
But there you have it, folks. 10 times a WWE wrestler.
You can
secretly
claim that
checked on their
Lesnar's
opponent.
only in it
Surely
for
the-
money, and you can't deny that because he said it. I don't get that. I think he's always seemed to have respect for the business. I don't get where people come up with that. Maybe they just assume it because it wasn't his first love or something. I don't know. But I like Lesnar matches. Now here, let me see if I can get this to come up on the feed here. Okay, what the hell did I just do there? Here we go. All right. Let's see if this will play nice for us. Okay, now the setup here, guys, is obviously I'm in the ring. I'm John. That's my buddy Matt. He wrestles as H.C. Loke. Phenomenal wrestler. Great worker. Has his own wrestling school. If you're anywhere near him in upstate New York, couldn't speak more highly of his abilities in every element of the business. And coming in behind is my buddy Danger. He's going to whack me with a chair. Now, I'm Dave. That Danger's name is Dave. Him and I have done these spots for a long time. That was a stiff chair shot. I told him to make it a stiff chair shot. It was setting up a big upcoming series that we wanted to get going. I was playing a commissioner type role at the time. I was going to come back into the ring because of this. But now here's the part. H.C. Loke is supposed to give me a clothesline after Danger, who's on the mic right now, leaves the ring. Now, I didn't even catch it at first. Did you see how immediately Loke started like giving me the triple tap? He's doing it to look arrogant, this, that, and the other, but that's not the only reason he was doing it. So now I start waiting. H.C. Loke never forgets a spot. Never. He's always right on top of things. Excuse me. So I'm trying to figure out why the hell he's not delivering the clothesline. Still no clothesline. So now I start thinking, okay, this is a rib. he's just going to make me sell this forever. We've done that to each other once in a while. You'll make somebody sell something for an extended period of time. And finally he gets me up and wham. Okay, and now what had happened was, because I went to the back still thinking that he was just ribbing me. He was just making me crawl around for a while and stuff. What you don't see there, the camera moved away, is I go over to him and I'm looking up at him like, dude, what's going on? Well, he told me when we got to the back, he said, that chair shot, he said, was so stiff. He said, I wasn't touching you until you let me know for sure that everything was cool. Now, that's how a professional does things. He wasn't 100% sure I was okay. Now, Dave Danger, who had hit me with the chair, him and I worked together constantly. We knew each other. He knew I was fine. Matt wasn't as familiar with me, and rather than just pick me up, hit the move like he was supposed to, and probably most people would have done, he's like, that chair shot just looked, he said, I wasn't sure you weren't hurt. I couldn't be sure. He said, and I wasn't putting you back down with a big bump until I knew. And so when I crawled over to him and looked up at him like, what are we doing? He knew that was me asking just that, and I was good to go. So that's how a real pro does business.